Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a navigation bar. So I'm going to head over to W3 Schools and have a look at the advice that they give for navigation bars. So W3 Schools is a great website for giving you advice on all HTML and CSS. So looking at this, I'm going to use their advice. So it says navigation bars are basically just a list of links. That's exactly what they are. So it makes perfect sense to use the UL, which is the unordered list, and the LI elements for making this. Now be aware, if you're using the UL tag for this, we're going to style it into what looks like a navigation bar. So I would, just to make it easier, I would avoid using bullet points anywhere else in that particular web page. If you wanted to put a list in, maybe use a numbered list, because otherwise it's going to apply the same style. Now there is ways of dividing it up, but we're not going to get into that at the moment. So if we're using this method of a navigation bar, don't use bullet points in your web page anywhere else. Okay, so let's get started then. So basically a navigation bar is a list of links, and using UL and LI elements makes perfect sense. And if I look at the example that W3 Schools have here, they have wrapped UL around all of their anchor tags for each of their web pages. So they have their web pages home, they have one here called news, one called contact, one called about, and they have wrapped the UL tag around a whole lot, and they closed it at the bottom, and then they have a list element on each single line. So they have opened the tag and closed the tag around their anchor tag for each of them. So let's do that to our website now. I'm going to head over to W3 Schools. I'm going to give myself a bit of space here, and I'm going to open up UL, and I'm going to close UL, making sure I close it. Okay. Then I'm going to add the LI tag to every single line and close it at the end of every single line. Notice when I close it that it automatically indents for me. Now if I refresh my page, I will notice that my list has now become a list of bullet points. So let's take it from there. I'm going to head back to W3 Schools and have a look at what's next. The next thing they suggest is to remove the bullets and the margins and the padding from the list. So if I look at their example, list style type is none. This is CSS here. So it's telling me for UL, so like we do for paragraphs and H1s and everything else, for all my ULs I'm going to apply this style here. And I know it's CSS because it has these curly brackets, so I'm going to be styling in CSS for this. And it says list style type none. So basically the list style type none removes the bullet points. So the style of bullet point is what that is, and if we say none, that's going to remove the bullet point. The margin equal to 0 and the padding equal to 0 will remove all the space around them. So let's copy that bit of code into our code.org CSS file. So I just click on my CSS file here, and I'm going to just paste my code in, and I'm just looking here now, and I'm going to press refresh to see the difference. And it has taken away the margin, it has taken away the padding, and it has taken away the bullet points. So I head back over to my W3 Schools and I clicked on the next button down at the bottom of the page, and it has then given me, if we want to build a vertical bar, so it's given me some code here to do that. So basically every list on my A tag, if I apply this style to it here, and again it's in CSS, so we display it as a block and the width of 60. So if I copy that code and I pop over to my code.org, I have something pasted in, I'll just delete and paste again. So we're going to display it as block and display the width of 60, and if I, just to highlight the difference, if I put a background color on it, background color and just choose something that might be used in a website a good bit. Look for maybe a light grey, semicolon, and if I refresh that, so I can see here now that it's 60 is the width of it, and displayed as a block, and the background color is grey. So if I change that width there slightly, I can have enough for all my text to be displayed. So the width is going to determine by the amount of text that you have to be displayed. So obviously Ada Lovelace is quite long, there's quite a number of letters there. So you can change that as appropriate for your own website. So now it's starting to look more like a navigation bar. So although it looks like a navigation bar now, they're all very close together. So I'm going to add a little bit of padding. And I'm going to say, for example, maybe 8px. Close my semicolon and refresh it over here. And that has given a nice bit of padding. I'm going to add a little bit of depth to that, so it's always height by width, so that'd be my height of the padding. And if I go, say, 16px here and refresh it, it gives me a little bit of width as well. Okay. Now it's really starting to look like a navigation bar, but I feel that the colour of the text now is a bit amateurish, so I'm going to change the colour of the text. So I'm just going to go colour, and for example black, close my semicolon, refresh the page, and I'm starting to like what it looks like now. It still looks a little bit amateurish, a bit more work to do. I think the next obvious thing to do might be to remove the underline, and that's called a text decoration. So if I go text decoration and set it to none, semicolon, refresh my screen, it now looks good. When I look at my screen now, I suppose what would be nice is if I hovered over these different elements and they were to change colour. So then I would know which one I'm pointing towards and whether or not it's clickable. So to give that effect, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to set up here LI, and for my anchor, for my A, I'm going to the action for hovering. Hover. And then I'm going to open my curly bracket, and every time I hover over that item, that list item, I want the background colour to change to something else. So for example, I'm going to look for something grey. Try this dim grey, semicolon at the end. And I also want font colour to change. So if I go colour, and I say that I want font colour to be white when I hover over it instead of black as it is now. And let's refresh our screen and try that out. So refresh my screen. Now when I hover over, it turns to black, so I know it's clickable, I know what I'm pointing towards. The white colour is lovely, the dark grey is lovely, and I'm very happy with how that looks. Thinking about that, I could decide to put a border around any of these elements if I wanted. And to do that, it's just basically using border, and then say 1 pixel solid and black. So now when I hover over it, I have a solid black border thin because I've only 1 pixel and going around the outside of that. You could put a border around the whole thing if you wanted. If I was to pop that in here, for example. It gives me a border around each of them. So I'll leave that. Is entirely up to yourself, your personal preference. Of course, you could change the colour of it from black as well if you wanted. There's not much point in having a black border when you're hovering over it if you already have a black border. So if I change it here to white, refresh it, Now it kind of gives it an extra dimension. So there we go. That's how we create a navigation bar using CSS code in HTML on code.org using WebLab. I hope you found this tutorial useful. There are loads more things that you can do with navigation bars with regards to colors, borders, all of that. It's entirely up to you how you want to display your web page. But this is an overview of a navigation bar using the UL function. So remember, if you're using the UL function to create your navigation bar, don't put in a bullet list anywhere else in your web page at the moment, because you need to learn how to change it. And we're not going to do that right now. So leave it at that, and if you want to use a list somewhere on your web page, just put in a numbered list. It's the easiest thing to do for the moment. But it's a lovely navigation bar in 10 minutes. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Bye-bye.